The other thing is we have a contest going on right now, and you can win some cash and some other cool prizes. We have some really cool guest judges, so if that is something that interests you, I would definitely check that out as well, and there's a link below. And the main thing that I wanted to at least direct you to is I have been kind of working on the new CG Cookie Concept Facebook page, and I haven't really announced it anywhere yet. And today I just put a link to it below. It's the zombie with the Facebook icon on his head. And the reason I thought it would be important to get it out sooner than later is because last week Twitch had a maintenance mode during the time that I was supposed to stream, and people weren't sure of where to find out where to go. So I think Facebook, any of the big social ones, so like Facebook, the community, and Twitter, those will probably be my first three I'll hit up right away to let you guys know if I'm streaming or if there's something happening that I gotta reschedule. So if you want to go click on that and follow it, I will only post concept stuff, so you don't have to worry about the other aspects of CG Cookie if you're only following for concept art, and I will be posting there frequently. Even if there's like a cool Kickstarter that just comes out, like when Losh's Kickstarter came out, I would definitely put a link on that CG Cookie Facebook page. So that's what I'm going to try to create it as, and I'm going to start uploading some of the old links and resources that kind of got deleted when we merged all of the old Facebook social pages into one. So I'm starting this one back up again only for the concept people. Okay, and I'm almost done doing the marketing here. Why, thank you. Gentles Land. Oh, I am sorry, guys. I'm going to just make that timer longer so I can actually look at it and read what you guys, the username is, so I can actually pronounce it. So thank you, whoever just followed. Okay, I think I'm good. All right. Okay. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask with at CG Cookie Concept. I saw a few of you asking before the stream started, so yes, please put that before so I can definitely see your question right away. So let's get this started. Officially, hi, I'm Tim Von Rieden, and welcome to the CG Cookie weekly Wednesday live stream here on Twitch. And we do these every week with a topic that is usually posted an hour or two beforehand, but usually I'll talk about what I want to do next week on the current stream. So like right now, next week we are going to be bringing in guest artist Sean Price. He's one of my close friends that have been wanting to transition from tattoo to illustration, and he's definitely been an inspiration for me to keep going as I see him progress in his journey. So if you guys remember from the summer stream, he did one before and it was a lot of fun. So that is what's happening next week. Now for today, I'm going to be working on the Drawlloween Day 12 challenge, which is, let me double check. It's I've got a Hunchback. Now, immediately you're thinking Hunchback of Notre Dame or Igor or something along those lines, and that would be actually a kind of a fun concept to do. But I've been itching to do a Twitch drawing, or a witch drawing. So I'm going to be doing something similar to this. This was something I did before Drawlloween even started. I got really excited in like late September, and I started just doing some little witch doodles. So I thought it would be kind of cool to show you guys how I would go about doing something similar to this along with doing the Drawlloween day. So if you guys have no idea what I'm talking about with Drawlloween, I have a link below that kind of explains it all. And there have been a lot of you guys that have been doing this in the community, and it's been really cool seeing your guys' submissions. So please keep submitting on that community page, because I actually do check that almost every other day, and I love to see what you guys are posting. And I don't post every day because I like to take higher res photos of my pictures so that you guys can see a little more close up what I am doing. So I will definitely be updating that tomorrow. And the reason that I'm in such a rush is because me and a lot of my friends and crew are going to see D'Antford tonight, and that's why I got to get this done. I got to get my Drawlloween finished for the day, and I'll definitely talk about this more as I'm drawing it, but it's definitely been a little bit of a stress thing for me. And like I said, if you guys have any questions, these are meant to be to help you guys learn something, hopefully, along with having some fun in the process. So I'm going to go ahead. Before I answer any questions, I see you guys starting to ask some, but before I answer any, I'm just going to show the tools that I'm using, and then I'm just going to go right into it. So today I'm going to be using, actually, normally I would start with a 0.7, just normal Bic mechanical pencil, and then I would finish it off with my 0.2. And this is like a very, 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 very tiny millimeter mechanical pencil. It's like less than half the size of a 0.7. But for Drawlloween, I've been actually using a 6B. You can see how much of the pencil I have sharpened down already. And that's because this forces me not to focus too much on rendering, which is definitely something I'm comfortable with and something I enjoy doing. But I can't be doing that for Drawlloween because I need to pump these out every single day and I can't be focused on the little details. So instead of using my mechanical pencils, which is a very normal thing for me to start with, I'm going to be working almost entirely with the 6B, unless if there's some little detail part that I want to focus on more, like the eye or something, then I'll pull in the 0.2 mechanical pencil. But I'm mainly going to be using the 6B, a kneaded eraser, and then my mono eraser, which is pretty much like a clicker eraser that is a very small diameter. I really have been using this, or I've been using this for about, I want to say 4 months, and I've kind of fallen in love with it. And I don't use any other eraser besides these two. Well, I thank you, Happy Unicycle, for following. Especially since I haven't even done anything yet, so thank you. Alright, so I'm going to put this aside. And I'm just going to kind of go for it. So if you guys have any specific questions while I'm working on either the process or if there's an area you want me to like zoom the camera in further, I can definitely do that for you guys. Okay. Let me see if I can get a question here. Rafa says, "Notice me, senpai? You are noticed." Just Call Me Clarissa says, "Got a question for the contest. Who will name our characters? Do we choose names for ourselves, or do you guys have one already?" I do not have a name for them. I thought it would be kind of cool if you guys had the opportunity to name them yourself. Well, I thank you, Still Me Tomorrow, for following. So if you guys are just joining in, we have a contest going on right now. You can check it out below, and it's for a witch. Witches are some of my favorite subject matter during Halloween, so that's why I'm doing it today. Kate Shipitsya says, "What do you think about the Wacom Mobile Studio Pro?" I'm very curious about it. I saw the release video, but I don't want to put out whether or not I like it or not until I actually can test it, and it'll probably be next year when I'm at conventions. Rafa says, "What do you consider when choosing values and how do you render forms?" I will definitely go into that further as I start it up here. Happy Unicycle says, "I love your work even though you said you haven't done anything." Why, thank you. And Hurricane Bro 30 says, "I like your hat," in all caps. Why, thank you. It's mainly because I just recently dyed my hair chartreuse and it's drying at the moment. And I didn't want it to be all crazy and weird on the stream, so that's admittedly why I'm wearing the hat today. Okay, so let's get started. I've done enough talking. So when I'm doing something like this, especially when it has such a focused area on the face, I really like doing characters. I think that shows with my work that it's kind of a comfort zone. So for this, I'm not even going to really do any pre-sketching. I'm just going to jump right into it. So let me move this somewhere where I can see it. That works. Well, thank you, Miss Llama Pants, for following. And I'm surprised you guys are following when I haven't even done anything yet, but thank you, thank you. All right, so I'm going to start with the eye, and we're going to have fun with texture on the stream. Because too often I'm drawing human characters that are in their late teens or early 20s, and I think I try to make their skin and a lot of things look very flawless and very smooth with maybe like freckles on top. But admittedly, I like adding texture and having a bit of a character through that texture start to materialize. So with Drawlloween, I think I've been given an opportunity to explore this further, and especially with age and forms on the skin. Well, I thank you, Hurricane Bro 30, for following. I've definitely been almost eager to draw something that isn't normally considered beautiful, like a bunch of wrinkles or in like hair coming out of nostrils and ears, and things that are fun to draw but not necessarily beautiful. But I think the more that I draw it, I think I'm seeing more beauty with the form and the way it's rendered, especially with other artists. The one that I've been really following recently, besides Danny Diaz, is Charles Lister. He is an amazing not only texture artist, but he is his shape language is so incredible. And when I really study his work, I can definitely see almost a freedom of not caring whether or not it's perfectly symmetrical or if it is going to be appealing in the end result. And I respect that a lot of him. I would definitely check out his work. His name is Charles Lister, and he's been kind of one of my big inspirations right now. Let me find here. We go. Question. CMH39 says, how do you practice anatomy poses, and does practicing in my sketchbook help my digital skills? Yes, doing your traditional work will definitely affect and apply to your digital work. Because if you're doing traditional work and you're doing any kind of value or adding any kind of texture, anything of that nature to your piece, that will translate into digital because that knowledge isn't software based. It's not something that you have in one but you don't have in the other. The stronger you become with your knowledge of textures and materials, it'll definitely translate in whatever form and media that you're using. I think I've been using traditional for so long that a lot of what I've been learning with my traditional, with adding contrast and building up form, has definitely translated into my digital. So don't feel like if you're doing one that it's hampering the other. I have noticed though, I'm yearning to do more traditional, more so than I had for doing digital. I think it's because of how much digital or traditional I was doing compared to my traditional. So you might start to fall in love with one medium over another, but don't feel like that's going to affect it in a negative or poor way. If anything, you might just forget a shortcut or two in your digital format, which that happens from time to time. Okay, now for this witch's nose, I'm definitely going very traditional, pointed, long. And to Rafa's question earlier, how do I build up my forms? I kind of do a very shaky outline, so something that could be erased very easily. And I'm not married to it, so I don't have to completely set it dark and commit to it. I'm definitely putting something out there that could be erased very easily, so that if there's an edit that I really think needs to be done to my piece, I can go ahead and change it pretty quickly, actually. And everything I'm trying to make a little shaky on purpose, because with this older age texture that I'm trying to get, I'm allowing some of that edge work to be shaky. Like on the eyelashes here, it's okay if they're not perfectly swooped, because it actually adds more to the character if they're slightly broken and off. And something you'll notice is I don't really do heavy rendering near the beginning of doing these. Usually I save that for the very end. And the other thing of working on this is I never have one process that I go about everything. I think it's kind of crazy to invent a process for yourself that you feel you have to follow every single time. I really do believe that art is a very fluid format, and it'll change depending on your mood, depending on something you've learned recently, how you've been influenced by other artists. It's always evolving and it's always going to be changing, and I think it's okay for you to allow yourself to not follow the exact process that you did on the last piece that you did. Even if you really liked the piece that you just worked on, just know that there might be a better technique or a faster technique waiting for you And you'll never discover it if you don't at least try. Now I'm going to pull out, oh you can't, there we go. So I'm going to pull out some of the strings that are, it's almost like the ribbon for her bow. It's like holding her hair down under her hat. And then I'll add a texture, or I'm sorry, a pattern to this afterwards. But for now, I'm just going to do another shaky outline. Like that. And then I'll get into rendering it later. Okay, I want to make sure you guys can see this, because I'm going to start doing a little bit of an outline for her hat. I'm going to make it actually pretty big. Oh, the other thing, let me move this out of the way. I'm going to put it up here actually. The theme today is I've got a hunchback, so I was going to emphasize that further here. Well, I thank you, Austin Mendoza, for following. So I'm thinking of almost having the hat give way to the shape of her back. Something like that. But I definitely want to make sure I emphasize her back region. Rafa says, are there any tips or a hint to create those interesting shapes? To be honest, it's a lot of just trusting your intuition and knowing, does it look stiff? Does it, more importantly, does it feel stiff? While you're working on your piece, does it look rigid and not natural and not fluid? And if you can recognize that it's feeling off, then change it right away. I don't think there should be anything stopping you from doing edits on the fly. It might go back to my whole idea of don't commit to something so early in the process. And I think that's because it doesn't allow you then the opportunity to edit something that maybe you're not feeling that great about and you would like to change it, but you feel so committed now to the concept or the lines that you've already put down that you're afraid to erase it. I'm never afraid to erase my lines, and I think that's something that I hope I can pass on to you guys if this is something you're struggling with. Okay, and now for her mouth, obviously there's giant area missing. I'm going to give her some raggedy old teeth. Oh, okay, everyone, you want to come over here? Everyone, here is Key.
Hi.
Do you want to say something about why you're not tag teaming today?
Oh, am I supposed to say something?
She wasn't feeling too great. She was a little sniffly. But I really do want to do a tag team with her on a piece sometime soon. Because I think it would be fun if every 15 minutes we switched off coloring the box head one.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Okay.
So, yeah. Bye, Key. Everyone say bye, Key.
Bye.
A lot of people say hi.
Oh.
And soon they're going to be saying bye.
And bye.
All right. So, back to her mouth. I'm going to be now creating this underbite, or overbite, I should say. She's definitely a crazy looking granny witch. Actually, Key, do you have any suggestions on things I should add to the witch?
Hold on.
I'm doing something similar to this.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you know my answer would be a cat.
What about something accessory that would be fun and simple? I mean, I could do a cat. Something else.
Accessory.
Because I definitely want to do the checker pattern again on her little scarf thing. I also had to remember to give her quite a hunchback.
Oh yeah. I think you should give her like some cool trinkets like in her hat.
Like sticking out. A lollipop.
Okay, good. Perfect. You did it.
Perfect.
You put a pattern on her hat.
Oh. Oh, what if I did a spiral going up her hat?
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that. And then it whoops out. Swoops out. I like it. Are you dyeing your hair?
Not today.
Okay.
Not enough time.
Rafa says, like hanging an old lamp on the tip of her hat. Oh. Actually, you could have her hand holding it. Alright, can you guys see this? So like imagine if her arm comes up here. It's like a very small candle, like too small to actually see anything or light away. But she thinks it's resourceful. And actually, if you guys want to name this witch here, I'm giving you full permission to do so. Oh man, I'm almost gonna have too much fun with the candle. I want to have like the wax dripping out, and it has like hardened into this weird formation underneath and around. This is where I get caught up in details, and I think a lot of you guys, or actually, I've got a lot of questions on how do you come up with your concepts, or what is your process like? Honestly, a lot of it is like, Key walked into the room, I'm asking her, hey, what do you think of this? Do you think something cool could be added? And then I just run with it. And if I don't like it, I erase it. If I do like it, I keep it. It's really that simple. And I think a lot of it I'm pulling from my own visual library. So I do trust myself, but there's always more that could be further developed, I guess. So even though I trust myself, I think it's good to get a second opinion and always be open to critique. I think the strongest artists are the ones that are open and willing to receive critique from others. Faithful Imagination says, Gawky should totally do questions like Joe used to do for us when she feels better if she wants. Yeah. I think she'd be okay with doing a moderator from time to time. I don't think all the time, but maybe every now and then. Yes, Tijil says, name her Eve. I think that fits. I see what you did there, Tijil. Alright, I'm going to actually put the camera higher up because I feel like you can't see a lot of what I'm working on here. So there we go. That's our witch so far. So I try to give myself a little bit of a good outline before I get into rendering, just because it makes the whole process so much easier. LizzieBoo182 says, very off topic, but for a Halloween contest, would you say a cartoon style would be okay, or would realistic or semi-realistic be better? No, actually, cartoon ones, I would say, win a lot of the times with our contest. it really just comes down to the execution of whatever style it is that you are comfortable in. So I have no prejudice on what I'm looking for in a piece. I definitely have my own personal taste, but I don't let that influence the contest entries. I really do judge it based on execution of whatever style you're going in. Okay, I think I'm actually, well, let me do, alright, I think I'm going to zoom in again and do more of the face rendering here. Because I think this is actually the fun part of the drawing concept, and I think I want you guys to see it up close and personal. Sunnyboy123 says, are there any other websites than DA, ArtStation, Behance, or Drawcrowd to publish an artwork? Because I want to be everywhere. The first one that comes to mind is Instagram. I think it's the #1 social media site for not only just people in general, but definitely for artists. And I see more artists active on that than I do other websites. So I would get on Instagram. Let me see what other ones you posted. DA, ArtStation, Behance. I do use Facebook still and Tumblr. Those are the other two that I definitely post to frequently, and Twitter. Twitter has been interesting for me. I don't think I've used it properly as much as I could be, but recently I've definitely been posting more on there. But anywhere that you can get your art out into the open is a good site to be posting on. I think it just comes down to your time and figuring out, is this worth my time to be posting it on? And if you're a younger artist, then usually the answer is yes, because what you need more than anything when you're starting off is exposure. So now I want her eye to definitely have kind of a center of a focus and attention to it. Well, I thank you, Lilia, for following. So I'm going to be adding a lot of contrast and a bit of heavy value shading around it. Not only will this imply almost like a dirty makeup application, but also it'll almost demand the viewer's attention right to her eye, which is definitely good. That's what I'm prepared for. That's where I want the viewer's eye to go. I want it to almost be like the point at which the eye can always go back to. So as it goes and explores the other aspects of our witch, it can always go back to the eye and find solitude in something that it's comfortable seeing. Just because it's, for me, I don't know how most people see such a heavy contrast, but I love seeing that visual contrast, and it almost immediately pulls my eye to that area. And that's usually how it works with most art pieces. That's just how our eyes and mind are trained. We're definitely attracted to contrast. And usually when I'm adding a darker value, when I want an area to be darker, I work in small circles with my pencil, and I just build it up gradually. I never push down really hard to create a dark value, just because then it becomes super difficult to erase. And like I said, I try not to commit to things too early, and when you push down your pencil super hard, you're definitely committing to that stroke. Now, if you're a slower artist, maybe you're like me and you're not the fastest render artist, then you probably should challenge yourself with something like Drawlloween, or even working with pens and just testing that out. Because while I still think I have a ways to go, I've definitely noticed I've gotten faster in some aspects of rendering. And I think a lot of it has come down to not only CG Cookie pushing me to post something so frequently, but in my own time, I kind of set deadlines for myself that I try to hit, and usually that makes me work a little faster. Now, when I'm shading out the different areas of the face, I'm definitely pushing and pulling the different muscles and the tissues that are underneath the skin and letting those almost seep through so that you can really see what the underlying anatomy is on the skin. And this just comes from practicing and studying anatomy for a long time. Even my knowledge of it isn't near complete. I have a ways to go, but I'm definitely comfortable enough where I can kind of like even do this face right now without looking at a face reference. But if I had a muscle face reference in front of me, I would definitely work with it, and it would probably improve the overall quality of my piece. But I say that with a big but. You shouldn't follow it verbatim, because oftentimes you get so lost in trying to make it look accurate that you actually lose some of the fluidness of your piece, and it becomes more of a study of something rather than it being in addition to your piece. And I see that a lot, especially with younger artists, how a lot of their work just feels like it's been copied from an image that was meant to be their reference. You're supposed to use reference very lightly and pull from many different sources of references and Frankenstein it into your own piece. Christy McAfee says, I'm actually scared to post on Instagram because of the constant art theft that I see. There's no way getting around art theft. I think you have to almost make the commitment to understanding that it'll probably happen to you, or maybe just commit to the idea that it will happen to you and that there's no way of absolutely preventing it. I've kind of never had a fear of people stealing my work. It's happened many times, so I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like it hasn't. But there's no way that I can prevent that from happening. And if I don't post my work, I'm not getting any exposure. I'm not getting any more new clients for my freelance work, and it'll hurt me in the long run because of the lack of exposure. Or even I'm not being able to share my art with the world. And as artists, that's really like our number one goal, is to be seen and heard through our visual images. And I think I've been very, very fortunate where I've been put in a position where I can now post something and feel proud of it and get a response from it, whether that be in comments or just in the amount of attention it gets. But it's something that I've been building up for the past 9 years of my life. So I think sometimes it's deceiving, especially when you see artists that are further along than you might be. I had this big thing when I was in school of just being like, man, I can never get to that many followers, or look how many comments this person gets. And sometimes it can get overwhelming, because then you create a vacuum for yourself in which you start to almost accept the idea that you're not good enough, or that it's too big of a challenge to take on. And it's not true. I'm telling you that right now, it's not true. The thing that you have to commit to, though, is the fact that it will take time. It has taken me a very long time just to get to a place where I feel confident with. And I actually am very thankful for where I'm at right now. But 9 years ago, totally different story. I had 13 followers, and on DeviantArt, I was struggling every time I posted to get any kind of comments. And it was frustrating from time to time. But that always motivated me. That never deterred me from wanting to do it further. I think some artists it's devastating when you never receive a comment, and it's like consistently not receiving feedback, not receiving likes, or you're not getting the kind of attention that you so much desire. And just know that it comes down to doing art for other people versus doing art for yourself. I think when we start off, a lot of the times we're doing art that we think other people want to see, or we're still consumed with the idea that we're not sure at all what we're doing. We're just posting whatever comes out of our mind. And I have definitely come to believe in the idea that you have to do art for yourself first. And if you develop your technique and really work on the technical aspects of your art and really make something that is fresh and creative, then I really do believe that other people will see that and follow you. So I know this is kind of a tangent, but I've received this question in direct messages for the past, I would say, 3 weeks. I've gotten about 4 or 5 questions that are along the same lines as this. So I thought I would address it and just let you guys know that it will come if you stay dedicated, if you have like a high tenacity, and you really are passionate about doing art. If this is your passion, then all the stuff that comes with being a successful artist will come in time, because passion is something you can't teach. That is something that most people would die to have, because when you're not feeling great about your work, or even when you're just starting out, there's nothing that will stop you. You're so determined to make it in the art world or whatever, even whatever career you're going into, that you'll eventually get into it. And I really, really, really believe that. So don't lose sight of that if you are a passionate artist. Alright, so every now and then I'll do these little details like this, where I'm almost just implying more of the fabric forms and folds that are happening. Let me see here. I'm going to further darken some of her eyebrow area. I'm going to give her some of these circle liver spots. Add a bit more texture to her face. Hurricane Bro 30 says, what are some places you like going to draw? My brother and I want to try to find a few cafes in our area to draw, but we don't really know where to tackle first. Yeah, I definitely like going. We have a local cafe in Waukesha, Wisconsin called the Steaming Cup, and I definitely go there with my roommates and my friends, my crew, when they come up to visit. I would say that's probably the number one area we go. But recently we've been wanting to go more outside on like an adventure. So areas that have cliff sides or mountains or a forest, something like that is always intriguing. And if you can find a good group of people to do something like that with, definitely do it. Oh, and then my other favorite place to draw people is either while I'm on a train or sitting waiting somewhere, but more importantly at a pool. I feel like it's a free life drawing session. You just got to make sure you have your sunglasses on. Eve says, you can only really fail if you stop trying, right? Yes, that's very true. There's a lot of artists that I've actually seen. I'm not going to name names or anything, but there's a lot of artists that I know that they could be really great. They just don't put forth the effort to do the work. And I think there's also something that, well, I thank you, Mexium Pie, if that was your screen name. Or, I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, but thank you for following. What was I talking about? The idea of not putting forth effort. And they have like a great technical understanding, they have great visual library, but they're not putting forth the work. And I think that's the other thing that some artists have to fight, is this weird feeling of entitlement. Well, I thank you, Lights and C, for following. It's when an artist knows that they're technically pretty good, but they don't do the work to not only to show it, but just to exercise their knowledge. They never post anything or they never work on anything. And with that mindset, you're never going to make it far in our industry, because it's almost like you're selfishly just hoarding onto your own knowledge and work. You need to share it with people. You need to showcase your work, show your talent, show your creativeness, your ideas. And honestly, I don't know why an artist wouldn't want to share their work with people. So this almost goes back to the whole not posting on Instagram or some of these social sites. I think you just got to do it and just be prepared for your art to be stolen and just make sure that you handle it like a pro, and you'll be fine. And yeah, it's frustrating, especially now Key's here and she's had her art recently stolen and sold on a mug, I believe it was. And it was frustrating for her to see that, obviously, and she had to email them, get a cease and desist, all that crap. And that will happen, but it's one of those things where you would rather put your art out there and let people see it and enjoy it, and not live with the fear of someone taking it, because then you'll never post anything. So we definitely got our witch coming together here. Now, I like to work with a lot of reverse contrast. So, and I do like to leave areas where I don't do any shading at all. So we'll see how this one develops. Like I said, I don't have like a really big agenda or plan going into some of these where I really just trust myself with looking at it and deciding, okay, does this area need more shading? Does this area need more shading? And I just run with it. And I think you should start testing yourself and just seeing, okay, do I trust myself with this image? Am I doing things where I see that I'm working with more of a technical aspect, not so much my creative aspects? And really just allow your creative aspects to take over. It's good to strengthen your technical side, but it's I would say arguably more important to let your creative side have freedom during the actual process. James Frio says, what are some habits and things you do on a daily basis that help you maintain that lifestyle that you're describing? I surround myself with people that I find inspiring. So, I thank you, Nemosifer, for following. So Key is an example. She's actually most likely moving in next month, and we have possibly Sean staying for a little bit next year as well. Well, I thank you, Blue Velvet 101, for following. And those are two people that are in addition to the 3 artists that I already live with. And I'm constantly being inspired from their work and our discussions and our talks. I feel like they definitely help keep my fire alive. And I hope that I would do the same for them. And it's this symbiotic artistic relationship that we have with each other that definitely helps me when I'm feeling down. So step 1, find people that you find encouraging and that are visibly passionate about what they're working on. Why, thank you, Sir Tazita, for following. And keep them around with you. You want to really embrace the people in your life that you can just tell are positive and passionate people, because their habits will rub off on you. And there's what's that saying where it's like your 5 closest friends are your biggest influences on your own personality. And the older I get, the more that I'm seeing that's true. So the people that you keep the absolute closest to you, their personalities and their habits, they're going to rub off on you. So you want them to be good habits, so find good people. The other habit, though, that I get into on a daily, I do draw every day. Not so much with Drawlloween where I have to have like a finished piece every day. I think this has definitely pushed me to my uncomfortable limits with this kind of stuff. I'm usually more focused on being a render artist, so doing Drawlloween has been a difficult challenge for me. And I'm very comfortable admitting that. Even with the past few days, I've definitely been feeling the pressure of Drawlloween and the idea of being a daily artist. I'm hoping I don't succumb to the exhaustion, because I've definitely felt it. But I can definitely understand and respect artists that do drawings every day, and I give them a lot of credit. So I think this has been a very good thing for me to at least experience, but I definitely understand that I never want to be a daily artist. This is something that does not intrigue me. And I'm sure some of you guys may have been feeling the stings of Drawlloween as well. I could just be having an off day. Yesterday was definitely, or 2 days ago was definitely an off day. Yesterday just kind of felt like blah, I guess. And actually, I'll show you what I did. So this was my Demon Demonday one, and I just wasn't feeling it. I did literally like 30 thumbnails of different demons, and not one of them were clicking with me. So then I found an old drawing that I did of just a profile head, and it was old and kind of dated and, in my opinion, not that strong. But I took it and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use that as my foundation. Let's just make a demon out of it. And this is the end result of what I got. And then yesterday, Key was here, and it was the Boggy Bogs and Slimy Fogs, I believe it was called. And I really wasn't feeling this from start to finish. It was just all right to me. I knew that I gave myself a big rendering job with every area that I wanted it to feel slimy or muddy. And I think I was relying too much on my render ability, where I think the concept could have been pushed further. And I think that's what I'm learning the most with Drawlloween is I have this weird expectation that I put on myself with everything I do. And honestly, it gets in the way sometimes of my speed and the way that I'm able to produce something. I definitely think it hurts me in a lot of ways. So I'm trying to figure out, how do I overcome this? How do I become an artist that is faster but is still confident in what they're producing? And I'm definitely learning some tips and tricks with Drawlloween. I can definitely see how just working with a pencil forces me to work faster. So in that aspect, I'm thankful that I've learned that. And I'm very curious to see what else I learn throughout the rest of the month. JSouth75 says, hey Tim, do you use Camtasia, XSplit, ScreenFlow, or something else to stream and record your videos, digital and traditional? I use Camtasia, but the Cookie Crew is actually moving toward using Premiere Pro almost exclusively. So I will be switching to that in the next month. And I'm pretty excited because I used to use Premiere a little bit back when I was in college, but now I'm actually going to be learning how to actually use it. Or I think before I was just dabbling with different functions, and it's like when you open a new software for the first time, you're just like dabbling and experimenting with all the new buttons and features, and you have no idea how to actually use it. But I think that's part of the learning process, is not knowing and figuring out, okay, where is this feature? Where is this button? I really embrace the self-taught method. Hurricane Bro 30 says, when did you meet the people you live with? In school, work, or by chance, etc.? There are a few artists in my school, but they're really hard to find. I'm a young artist, and I also really like your Demons guy's beard, by the way. Why, thank you. The people that I live with now. Okay, so Joel and Corinna officially moved out, and after them, it was Tyler moved in. Tyler, I met... He went to my school, but I didn't actually meet him while I was in school. I met him through our mutual friend, Pui, who is one of my really close convention friends. And his art is actually really wonderful. You know what? I'm going to do a quick tag for him really quick, because I honestly think he deserves more attention. It's at Pui Illustrated. So there. And you know what? It might be 2 eyes. I'm pretty sure it's 1. But it's at Pui Illustration. Or Illustrated. I don't know why I thought it was illustration for a second. And he does really fantastical, almost fine art works, and they're gorgeous. But anyways, so I met Tyler through that. He's the caricature artist that drew me a few streams ago during the summer. And he's become one of my good friends of just like kicking back, watching a movie in the family room while we both draw. It's been really fun to just hang out and kind of get an opinion from someone that isn't as, I would say, naively optimistic as I can be. And it's kind of fun to have banters with him. And then Ashley and Gabe are the people living in the basement. And Ashley I met through, actually we did these doodle hangouts where it was actually called Doodle Art Battle. And we would stream for an hour and a half with 4 people, and they would be given topic, And it was a lot of fun, but I met her first on there, and then I met her in Minnesota when I went to a Minnesota convention. And then we just talked some more, and then later last year, she had this circumstance where she had to move out, and she was kind of taking a restart on life. And I definitely wanted her to move in. I gave her the option, and at first I think there was a little reluctance because it's a new state, it's so far from home, and she'd had to give up her dog. It was a lot for her, and she had to give up her full-time job, but she did, and she's been killing it. She's actually just got back from a New York convention this past weekend and did very, very well, very successful, and I'm just so proud of her for what she's accomplished in just a short year of becoming a full-time freelance artist. Gabe is her boyfriend, who also lives in the basement with her, and he is an established comic book artist, which is definitely a world I'm not familiar with, so it's always fun kind of learning new things from Gabe about the comic book industry, and just seeing the like compare and contrast the comic book industry to the illustration industry and like the concept art industry, because it is very different. It's a whole different world than what I'm used to. And they're both older than me by 7 years. Well, Gabe is actually, but I definitely see them as like these older siblings figure, and I really appreciate them being around. And then lastly, Key will be moving in upstairs in November most likely, and I met her at a convention. She actually came up to my booth and asked if we could do an art trade, and this was before I've never met her before. And at that convention, why thank you, Mr. Noodles 0 up for following. And at that convention, I remember being like, okay, we'll do an art trade, because usually I'm not really into doing art trades, but I opened up her portfolio book and I was immediately like, I actually follow you. It became this very kind of funny conversation of kind of exchanging, I follow you, well, I follow you, and I'd like this piece of your work, and I like all your work, blah, blah, blah. And it was just kind of like that sappy when artists meet each other, because we're all just like social weirdos, you know? But it was really fun. I'm glad that she came up to my booth, because then I asked her to hang out and just draw with me one night, and ever since then, we've gotten really close, and now she's become one of my closest friends, and I'm constantly inspired by her work. And if you don't know her work, she is at Gawky. You know what? There might be a period there. I actually think there is a period there. But yeah, her work is wonderful as well. And then the last roommate, Sean Price, he may or may not, we'll see, next, January, February, he will be taking the last room in the house. And I met him at another convention. It was in Chicago, C2E2. He was actually talking to my roommate, Ashley, and I was out and about. Then I came back to my booth, and Ashley was like, Tim, you have to meet this person. And she was like oogling over this artist, and he had his sketchbook with him. So I was like, yeah, let's see what you got. So he opens up the sketchbook, and I really, really enjoyed his traditional work. I think he had a great understanding of how to work the pencil and create interesting shape dynamics within his piece. So just kind of like what I did with Key, I was like, hey, we should hang out sometime, and we exchanged information, and then he started streaming with us one night, and ever since then we've become really close, and now I talk to Sean every day. And he's an artist that he's newer to illustration, but he's had such a length in the tattoo industry that he kind of is familiar with how marketing works and how to become a brand and all that stuff that unfortunately comes with being an artist. And usually the most successful artists are the ones that really know how to brand themselves. Like if you look at Sakimi-chan or Loesch or Peter Moorbacher, the ones that definitely are relevant and people know and hear about, they're really, really good at marketing themselves. If you kind of study the way they approach their social media, the way that they do their posts themselves, like actually look at what they're posting, it won't always just be art. Every now and then it'll be talking about their store that's opening up, or a Kickstarter, or something that is more so on them earning a living. And as an artist, that is something that we all kind of struggle and fear is, can we make it as an artist? Because we've all heard those awful things growing up about how artists don't make any money, you'll be a starving artist, all that stuff. And it's good to recognize someone when they're a successful artist. Look at what they're doing. Like, I have a Kickstarter coming out in January for my new sketchbook, and I'm going to be looking at the successful Kickstarters, look at how they ran their campaign, what were their trial and errors, what did they offer as part of their Kickstarter, and you really have to do some research. And if you want to make it in this industry, you're going to have to put in the time and effort to try to understand it, because no one completely understands the industry. But there are people that have been doing trial and error for so long that they kind of have a better idea of what will work and what won't work. And that's why I'm so thankful for my art crew, because they are very good about giving me feedback on whether or not they think something new that I want to try will work or not. And I trust their opinion. And some of us, especially like Pui, me and him have been doing cons for 3-ish, 4 years. And we'll try new things all the time. And we'll tell each other what worked, what didn't work. We'll share our numbers with our conventions on did this con work better because we tried a new setup and all this stuff. And I learned things like magnets for me don't work. My magnets didn't sell at all. But when I did buttons, those sold like hotcakes. So anyways, I could go on a big rant about how to become more successful in art. But I think a lot of it just comes down to putting in the time and effort to really understand it, and accepting the fact that you might have to brand yourself as a way to get exposure. Lights and Sea says, does one have to move to California or New York to make it big in the industry? No. Actually, Texas is becoming a bigger player in the game. Florida is another one. Colorado, Seattle. If you want to work in the game or film industry, you should definitely look at the studios that you want to work for, and a lot of them will be located in these big name areas. And if you're willing to make that move, then definitely do it, and just know, unfortunately, opportunity sometimes happens where there are jobs. So as a younger artist, I think if you want to get a job in the industry, you have to be willing to sacrifice your location. But just know it's not necessary. You can definitely make it as a freelance artist, or you can find jobs that are more local, probably less established or unknown, but that's okay, because you just want to get your start. And then once you get your name kind of built up, if you're passionate enough, you can definitely kind of create your own work then. They have some of her hair like hiding under the hat here. So now here's an example of reverse contrast. In the pocket area of her mouth here, I'm going to darken the underside of her cheek. Like that. And let the inside of the mouth be lighter in contrast to give more separation of form. And you'll see me do this a lot. That's because I love playing with reverse contrast and directing the viewer's eye in the way that I kind of want it to go. I think as you become more familiar with realism, it becomes boring really fast. And I've definitely learned that I like to explore stretching realism, where I'll render things realistically, but the lighting doesn't necessarily make sense. And I like that. I like having that maybe awareness, or even that control, or I would say freedom. I have that freedom to make my own choices like that. For her nose, I think I'm going to keep it lighter. Let me do a quick pass on dark. Let me see if I like. Yeah, I guess I don't mind it being darker. Let me go ahead. I'm going to sharpen this again. me see if I can find a question here while I'm doing that. Penguin H says, if someone commissions a picture from me, who has the rights to it? Am I allowed to post it on my social media? What is the commissioner generally allowed to do with it? This is something that you want to state immediately as you do the commission. If in your contract, whatever it might be, you almost give yourself permission to post it, definitely state it in that initial contract. Otherwise, you could get in some trouble. Generally, they're allowed to use it for commercial purposes or whatever. Well, it depends. It depends on what the contract said, what they came to you for. A lot of the times, I'll allow them to do with it whatever they want, as long as they give credit. Unless if it's something for a business, then they don't need to give me credit. But I do retain full rights to it as an artist, so I am able to post it freely. I don't have to ask permission. So just be aware of making it known right away. Like as you're picking up the client, you are making it known of what rights you want to keep and what rights you're willing to let them have. Okay, so now here's another area where I want to give more contrast to that eye that's further back. So I'm going to make her lower brow area darker. And by doing that, it gives more contrast to that eye. It gives kind of a cool look to it, because it's just like sneakily in there. And I might even darken up some of the mascara on her shaky eyelashes here. Another thing, I like to add little specks of dust around my pieces. I usually wait till I'm finished, but you can see the kind of effect that gives. Then for her hair, I've just been kind of doing lazy swooping. I haven't really had any sense of direction. I kind of like the idea that it looks messy. And like this curly fringe that she never combs or rarely washes. And once again, this kind of adds to that character development. And often I try to think about this while I'm working on the character. I think with Drawlloween, it's really forcing me to think of the character's backstory quickly, which admittedly I'm not too used to doing. But it's been kind of fun with some of the concepts that I think have been working. They're concepts that happen on the fly. Blue1117 says, my internet cut out, so if you don't know if you explained reverse contrast. If you haven't, could you explain it? If you have, I'll just rewatch the stream. No, I can talk about it again. So reverse contrast isn't so much a realism technique. It's something that I've kind of developed for myself to allow myself freedom when working on my pieces, not to follow it exactly how it would feel realistically. So in the corner of this mouth is my perfect example where I'm pushing this upper cheek here darker, and then even with this lip here is darker. And then on the inside of the mouth, I'm leaving it lighter. And that reverse contrast separates the two forms from each other and also gives more interest to it. Because if they were all dark, it would just look like a dark blob. But now that we have a bit more to it, where you can clearly see the separation, it allows you to look inside of that mouth and then discover this like weird tongue, which I have to definitely draw out further. Something like that. And honestly, I'm not saying that you should do reverse contrast, but I definitely enjoyed the process. So maybe just try it out for yourself, see if you like it. Why, thank you, Saucy Nacho, for following. What a beautiful name. Okay, so now let's see here. I'm going to zoom in on the eye. I'm going to do one more pass on this, because right now it's all right rendered. It definitely could be pushed further. But I'm going to switch to my 0.2 to give you an idea of how I would work my mechanical pencil with my traditional together. So I'm definitely looking to edge out some of these areas. And then also I'm going to give her a double ring to her iris. I feel like that's becoming a staple for me with all my work. And then I'm going to go in and just better define some of these lower wrinkles. Maybe give her some freckles or sunspots. Now the lead that I have in my mechanical pencil is actually an HB, which is a lot lighter than the 6B traditional pencil that I'm using. So I might actually have to get some new lead for my mechanical pencil, just because I think it's trying to work against such a dark traditional pencil that it oftentimes doesn't even appear as dark as I actually want it to. And then same with the other side. I'm actually going to take my eraser. Those ridges on her nose don't feel natural or like they have much depth to them, or form, I mean. So I'm just going to erase them, because like I said, I'm not afraid to erase anything on my piece. And just give those bumps more definition. Like that. Ooh, don't like that middle crease though. Subtle wrinkles can never hurt. So I'm just going to add in a few of those here too. Then once I get done with this area, what time are we at? Oh good, we still have about an hour. I'm gonna work up some of these other areas. Her face is actually very skeleton looking right now. I'll definitely try to fix that. First I want to work on this nose. So usually when I'm doing a nose like this, I like to have it be very dark and then have a highlight going down the strip here, but then also some bounce light happening underneath. And this can be a real challenge. I'm going to switch to my 6B actually, get that darker result. See if I can push this further. Let me see if there's a question. Oh, I'm actually behind. Blazard says, at which point did you realize you could draw traditionally without nearly any line art at all? To be honest, I've been kind of doing this since I was little. I didn't have much of a formal education in art when I was younger. I love my parents, but they have no idea what they're doing with art or what to do with a child that was interested in art. So I think they just kind of let me explore on my own terms. They would just supply me with like paper and a number 2 pencil. And actually I would always just take my dad's office paper. So I never had sketchbooks growing up. I only worked on office paper that you would like print for whatever reason. And and when I was younger, I never knew that you were supposed to like follow line art or like create shapes first. All these things were so foreign to me. And then when I went to high school, I was given more, my teacher was more into creative freedom and not being so structured. she was definitely very harsh. She had a lot of nicknames back when I was in high school because of how critical she was of people's work and her expectations of them. She was hypercritical on me, and I'm super thankful for that. But at the time, she didn't really enforce me to really study and understand realism as much, because she wanted me to understand breaking creative limits and trusting fluidity and form. And it's something that I've taken with me throughout my life, where I think being a concept artist wouldn't work super well for me in the industry, because I don't like doing the same iterations of the same thing with like slight differences. Admittedly, that's not my strong suit. I've met artists that I would definitely consider stronger concept artists than myself, and I think when it comes to what I'm good at, I definitely know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. And my strengths are definitely like rendering and building up form, stuff like that. So in terms of building up line art, I never wanted to, because I don't enjoy that part of it. Now, that could just be stubbornness, but I think a lot of it comes down to trusting intuition and creating more of an art piece rather than a concept piece. It definitely varies. Like Alan Williams is my favorite traditional artist, and the way that he works is very much he just jumps into it. And I think after watching some of his videos, it gave me the reassurance that, okay, you don't need to always start off with shapes or pre-work. You can just jump into it. But I want to say that with also saying I've definitely done a lot more thumbnailing recently, and it has helped me kind of think of new ideas and push out ideas that I probably wouldn't have explored if I didn't create thumbnails, or at least given some life to them. So I've definitely seen the importance of doing thumbnails as well. Okay, I'm gonna try to make her look less of a skeleton. Let me add to her eyebrow here. And maybe, you know what? Maybe that nose is too dark. It almost looks like a scary Jack Frost, like the Snowman movie, the horror one. I don't want this to look like a carrot. So let's really make this nose kind of bulge out further. Maybe it's because I really lifted her brow on this one. You know what, I'll just pull down some of that hair that's up here. Oh, you know what it is? I think it's her sharp teeth. It's like too monster-esque right now. So let's redo that area. No, I don't like that either. So there becomes times in your own art where you have an area where you're just like, that's not working. Let me redo it. Yeah, you just got to kind of work through the frustration. Might give her more of that wrinkled texture here. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, she's ready to eat some pudding or something that doesn't require teeth. You can always tell when I go quiet that I'm like focusing. Yeah, something like that. Okay, let me stop focusing on the face. I think when I over focus on something, I tend to get too render oriented, and that's what I know I need to start moving on. So I'm going to put a pattern on her scarf here. I kind of like the checkers that I did on the original sketch, so I'm going to carry that over here. So when I'm adding these on, I'm giving way to these initial wrinkle lines that I'm seeing, and I'm making the line go dip in each of those wrinkles and try to create the illusion of this fabric looking real. So then let's try a slightly different pattern, maybe like a diamond. So you can see we got that going on. And then to kind of differentiate them, I do the black-white contrast. Man, and you would not know it's actually 3 o'clock where I am. It looks super dark outside. It's been raining like crazy. And it's making this room really dark. And my paper is actually kind of hard to see in areas. So then, now that I have my pattern laid down, I like to go back then and do kind of a pass over it. And you know what, I'm going to switch to my small mechanical pencil here. Just trying to build up that form to give it more of a edge. You know what, let me zoom in so you can really see this here. Hello. Okay, let me move. There. And I'm not worried about if I lose some of the pattern underneath. That's going to happen regardless. And that's okay, because that's how it would actually be in real life, where it wouldn't be this perfect pattern going up and down. Okay, now it's all being tied pretty tight together in front of her neck. Let me zoom out again. There you go. And then it forms this bow that she has tied on her. That, and then this is another example of I already know how I'm going to reverse shade this. So making this darker and then the underside lighter. And then each of those strings, or I should say ribbon, hangs down. I want them to be kind of raggedy and breaking up near the end here. And same with this side. I always am a little conscious of how thick I'm getting with my line weights on things like ribbon. Because if it was the same piece of ribbon, I try to have there to be some kind of a consistent flow and feeling to them. Oh, I don't like that actually at all. I'm going to pull this one back. There, that feels better. Alright, so now with this, I definitely want to re-add that texture on. So I'm going to put those diamonds back in place. Still trying to keep in mind that it's wrapping around a form here. Oh, sorry, I haven't looked at questions recently. Sunnyboy123 says, what kind of music do you usually listen to? It definitely varies. I like indie, but I'm very much into like orchestral or what have I been listening to recently? Very much classic music, so anything from 50s or 60s I like in the background while I work. I guess it's so varied. I don't think I have like one set type of music. Like even tonight, I'm going to see D'Antwoord, who are very like crazy, intense music. But then other days, I might be listening to things that are more blues or jazz oriented, like Billie Holiday or something. And then other days, I might be listening to something that's more indie, more pop. It really just depends on my mood that day, and I always kind of allow myself to follow that instinct. If I really feel one way about what music I should be listening to, I just follow it. Blazard says, could there be a stream explaining the effects of body fat to muscle ratio or age upon human anatomy, or is there any place with a proper explanation? Yeah, I could definitely do something on that. I feel like this has been requested before, and I definitely could get around to doing something like that. I want to do a full-blown anatomy course. It keeps getting passed on me, and I'm willing to do it. I'm just like waiting for that right time. And I think this November and December might just be that. So hopefully I'll be able to work on an anatomy course for CG Cookie later this year. Well, I thank you, Damien Pandav, I think it said, for following. Okay. Yeah. So now with these ribbons that are coming down, I can kind of cheat the way that the diamonds go down it. Downed it. They go down it. And I can focus more on the placement on them based pretty much primarily on where do I want there to be like a cool contrast. Something like that. I thank you, Fatty J. Birdian, for following. That feels too perfect here. I'm actually gonna change it up. Hurricane Bro 30 says, what will be Tim's Halloween costume? I'm wondering. Actually, it's changed quite a bit. I've had a few ideas. One of them, the first one was kind of a demon. I really wanted like really long, like 6 foot long, dirty red hair. And then I was going to cast and mold my own horns and everything. But that idea quickly fell apart once I realized Drawlloween kind of eats up all my available time. Or my spare time. And I'm throwing a really big Halloween party the weekend after Halloween, so it's been in the back of my mind of I have to come up with a costume. And the second idea, what was the second one? Oh, I forgot what the second one was. But I do have an idea for my third one. I'm not going to reveal it though yet. I'll reveal it maybe the week of. Because we just got, I know you can't see it, but you can kind of see it off the reflection of my glasses? Oh, no, you can't. We are changing the entire party room in this back area of the house to be blacklit sanctuary. That's what I'm calling it. So, like, for Denver, let me show you what I got. So, I got this giant paint suit, and we found out last night that it reacts to blacklight super well. And I bought this blacklight bulb, and the idea then came about, what if you came in a costume and it would look one way in standard light, but then you go into the blacklit area of the house and it reveals like this totally different outfit. Like one person might be a cat, but then they come into the back room and you see the skeleton of a cat or something along those lines. And it's the idea of playing with the invisible paint that's only reactive to blacklight. So I have a few ideas going around in my head. I'm not gonna spoil anything though, and I just know that I'm looking forward to it. I'll just say that, and I'll definitely post on my Instagram when the time comes around. Okay, so I really like the contrast we have with her hat here. I'm probably not going to do too much shading on the top just because I love that play on very heavy contrasted dark areas here versus this very light hat. So I'll probably do, this is what I like to call minimal shading, and it implies value and form, with like very, very little. And I kind of am in love with doing that. If you see my previous traditional works, I definitely use that a lot. So I try to use it to my advantage. And I think right now would be one of those times. Oops, can't see what I'm doing. Got to be aware of where my camera is. Let me pull it out actually. It's like there. There's that a little better. Yeah. Let's see here. Hurricane Bro 30 says, "Don't give up. There's time for everything." Thank you. It's been really encouraging. On Sunday, I was not feeling Drawlloween. Or no, Monday. I'm sorry. Monday, I was not feeling Drawlloween. I just wanted some time to myself to like work on my outfit or my costume, or even with like the D. Antford concert tonight, I wanted to have more of a cool outfit, but I feel like my time is being eaten up with Drawlloween. And yeah, there's some days I want to give up. Actually, I wanted to talk about this. If there's anyone else doing Drawlloween right now that isn't used to posting drawings every day, like how much are you guys feeling that pressure or that weird expectation of yourself to like, I have to post today, I have to go home, I'm not allowed to watch any TV because I have to finish this. And it's, at least for me, I don't know how you guys are feeling, but I am definitely stressed. I feel it. I feel the exhaustion. I appreciate it for what it has been teaching me, and I'm doing my best not to complain about it. But I can definitely feel the anxiety of doing it. So I think something like this piece that I've worked on today, this has actually been comforting. I think talking with you guys has been really nice, because then my mind's not so over-focused on things. I can just let it play around with like the shape and form, and if I see a cool idea, I'll run with it. But usually if I'm just drawing by myself and I know I have this weird deadline to hit, I kind of put more pressure on myself than is necessary. Maybe we'll give her hat some more straps and stuff. Oh, speaking of, have any of you guys thought of a name for her yet? I feel like I keep saying her and she and this witch, but I feel like I should call her by her proper name. Hurricane Bro 30 says, "You can be whatever you want to be." Thank you. Yes, I do plan on being whatever it is I want to be. Not even just so with Halloween, but I think just in life, you kind of have to live a life that you want to live and be one that's a positive life. You're helping others and you're making a change for the better. And I'm kind of a sucker for karma. I believe in it like 100%. So do good unto others. I really do believe that has come back to me in a lot of ways, and I just feel very fortunate in my life. So I feel I need to give back. And I hope you guys get to that point too, where you want to help and teach others, or aspire a younger artist that kind of reminds you of yourself when you were younger. And trust me, I know what it was like being a weird art kid growing up. I wasn't really made fun of, or I wasn't bullied at all, but I definitely had a more shy side to me. People just kind of left me alone, which was actually kind of nice because then I could just focus on drawing. But I've had a lot of people even message me about how it's inspiring to see how extroverted I am, or things along those lines. And I think it's good for you guys to know I still consider myself more of a introverted person. I think that's why I draw. I communicate best through visual language. And I think I'm very open to meeting new people, and I'm very respectful of other people. And I think that's why it may come across that I'm more extroverted. And admittedly, I do like to party, and that is more extroverted. But when I'm just by myself, honestly, I wouldn't trade that for the world. I could watch a movie, just draw, and be like at complete peace. And I think it's good for you guys to know that I'm not this over, like I'm not meeting new people all the time, and I'm not doing conventions every single day. And I think sometimes the impression is very wrong. We're all just weird art kids coming together. That's all it is. Hurricane Bro 30 says, I was just eating Madeleines with my brother while watching this, so maybe Madeline could be a really spooky cookie pun name for her. Madeline. I'm sorry. Why did I say Madeline? Madeline. I can see this being a Madeline. Madeline the Witch. I'll put that down on the post-it note. Someone says Pinocchio. I don't think I would name her Pinocchio. Oh, Sophie. Sophie reminds me of Howl's Moving Castle, though. Granny Janny. Oh, I kind of like that. A Gertrude. Timkey. No, I don't think he would appreciate that. Faithful Imagination says, Drawlloween is super intense, but I've also been drawing 5 hours every day, 5 days a week, and Drawlloween has actually been a nice break where I can sit down and just watch TV for 2 hours and draw something I want to instead of doing a study. Well, that's good to hear. I think I put too much pressure on myself with Drawlloween, and maybe that's why I'm, stressed out about all of it, but I think I need to take a chill pill. Maybe just focus on having fun with it again. Because I think on Monday and Tuesday I wasn't having fun, and I think that was the reason I kind of wanted to do Drawlloween, and I think that's the reason I was considering giving it up. But actually, Key was with me that day. Or no, Key wasn't with me that day. It was, I put a message on Instagram just saying like, I'm frustrated with today's thing or something, and I got a lot of messages of just words of encouragement, and it was honestly, it was the push I needed to be like, you know what, Tim, suck it up, let's go. Like, lace up, let's finish what you started and just do your drawing. This is what you're good at. This is what you like to do. You like drawing. Remember, Tim, you like drawing. And I got it done that day. I wasn't super pleased with it, and I was frustrated most of the time working on it, but I still got it done. And my roommate Gabe always, one of his big taglines is, done is better than perfect. And I'm really trying to take that to heart this October. All right, so let's tip out the point of her hat. Just bring it around here. I got a little thick there. Okay, now with something like her hat, I think this is a very good example of where you can definitely add in some contrast and create like a gradient from light to dark. Gradients are always eye-catching regardless of where you put them. You have to be careful not to put so many gradients in your piece that it becomes hard to focus on anything. But having a few in select areas really can add some visual interest to your piece. And once again, this isn't going off of lighting information or realism. This is purely based on creating a more visually appealing and interesting composition. And I think I definitely lend myself to doing that more than focusing on, is this realistic? All right, if we look at that further away here, you can see what we've started to build up. I actually really like the contrast under her hat here as well. I might keep a lot of this. So let's go ahead and add in the shoulder area for where the arm will then carry through. So I'm picturing the arm under here, and then I have to give visual information as to how that cloth is folding. So I don't want to over render this. I don't want it to just be like a big black blob here. I want to just give enough implications and subtleties to imply the fabric and what she's wearing rather than having to shade it entirely. LizzieBoo182 says, how do you feel about so many young artists being so popular on social medias and such? And do you think it's become easier for younger artists to become better known in the last few years? Or has it been like that since DeviantArt? Good question. No, I actually, yeah, I do think it's a little easier just because the exposure and the amount of outlets that you can get on is definitely more than it was before. And these artists that are younger, they've been exposed to things like Photoshop for longer than, like, for example, I have only been using Photoshop since I was 18. And that's not even 10 years yet, where some kids and artists that are much younger, they were exposed to it when they were like 10 or 11. And their understanding of digital art and just art in general will grow substantially, almost like a snowball effect from it. So I definitely think we'll be seeing some absolutely amazing concept artists come out in the next 10 years just because they've been exposed to it at such a young age and that technology was there for them. And I'm really looking forward to it. I get inspired by other artists' works very easily, so I'm really kind of motivated to see what comes out in the next even 5 to 10 years even. Oh, and I guess just for anyone watching that didn't hear me in the beginning, I have been reworking the CG Cookie Concept Facebook page. We had a huge following before, and then we merged all of CG Cookie's sites into one, and we merged our social sites as well. So our Facebook page is very new now, the concept one, and I've been secretly posting and working on it, just getting back into the habit of doing it for the last couple months. But now I'm making it more public so that when something like that Twitch maintenance happens, like last week where I couldn't even stream, you can check either Facebook or Twitter, and those will be my first 2 outlets of letting you guys know what's up. So if Twitch is down one week, check either Facebook or Twitter. I'll most likely update Facebook first. So I put a link to that below. It's a little Frankenstein with the F on his forehead. He was what we did last week for the stream. And actually, if any of you want to see the PSD of that, like I promised I would last week, I will have it up tomorrow. I literally, before the stream started, I reworked the Photoshop file so that it was in folders and groups, and it's properly named. So now, tomorrow, you can go check that PSD out. You can hide layers. And you know what? Here, I still have it open. Let me show you guys really quick. Okay, so here's our little zombie boy. Here's the initial drawing, and we take it from that to the underpainting. So this was drawing underneath the line art. Overpainting, we're starting to work over the line art, and we're not caring about going outside of the lines. We did some color experiments where we were shifting our hue and saturations and seeing what we liked. Then we finally added our background and then gave a nice edge to our character's head with rim light. Added our texture in. You can see the huge difference that texture can make on a piece. And then I toned down the rim light substantially. Added our highlights, so you can see before and after what that looks like. And then finally, we have the final image. So if you want, you can actually go in each of these folders can see, oops. You can see each step on what was added, what was taken away. And if this is something that interests you, it'll be out tomorrow. But these are only for the members of CG Cookie. So you can look for that sometime tomorrow. And then on Friday, I have oh, I'm excited to show you this actually. It is this one, I believe. I rendered out the pumpkins. Honestly, I love the pumpkin texture and material, so I had a blast rendering these out. And the step-by-step will be out on Friday. So if this is something that intrigues you, if you want to draw pumpkins, maybe even for the contest, if there's a pumpkin somewhere in the scene, I have one that's lit from the outside and one that's lit from the inside. I still have to edit the inside one. This is like too cartoony saturation. So I want to show, I'm going to change this a little bit. But for the most part, they are done. So if this is something that interests you, check that out on Friday. Okay, back to our witch that is still unnamed, maybe Madeline or Granny Janny. I kind of like Granny Janny just because it flows off the tongue really nice. But we'll see. CMH39 says, did you have to work part-time or full-time while in Chicago? If so, how did it feel to try and draw afterwards? I've had a really weird career life. I've had so many jobs. I worked at a bakery. I was a librarian. I was a lawyer's assistant. I worked at retail for a little while. And actually my favorite job, even though it was the most physically demanding, I was an oyster shucker for a good part of 2 years. I moved up I worked at a seafood restaurant and I started as an oyster shucker. And it was laborious. It was just painful every day, where I was shucking oysters for 4 hours. But then I got promoted to be sushi boy, so then I was making and rolling my own sushis for a while. And then once they saw that I started designing the plate with the teriyaki sauce, they put me as dessert boy, and I was able then to decorate like cakes and creme brulees, and I was able to like make patterns of filigree using chocolate and caramel syrup, which was honestly my favorite job. But it was really demanding. Like, working at a restaurant is not easy. I have so much respect for those that work at a restaurant now. I think it's kind of opened my eyes to that life, and I give a lot of credit now to them. Anyways, no, I did not have a job as like a concept artist anywhere in the industry. I did get a few freelance works before I got my full-time job at CG Cookie. It was just doing like iPad and iPhone games, and then every now and then I would get like a drawing commission of like drawing, a horse or a family, things like that, things that were more like realism focused. But no, so yeah, I got my job with CG Cookie the weekend after I graduated college. And at first I was brought on to be more of like a concept artist for the 3D modeler Jonathan Williamson at the time. And then it just kind of grew and developed into a job of running my own concept website. And then it's grown into what it is today. And now I get to like do these live streams every Wednesday. I get to do drawing pumpkin step-by-step tutorials. It's like I'm definitely living a very fortunate life. I'm feel very lucky to be in the position I am today. But I do have a few friends that do work in the industry in not only Chicago, but actually one of them works at Riot. He is doing very well for himself, but he had to move to California, so that was another instance before. Like I said, if you're willing to make the move, because you will see more job opportunities in areas that require you to work in-house, if you're where the jobs actually are. And then the friends that I have in Chicago, they work at a company called Zynga. They're the ones that made Farmville, and now they're making a slew of new games almost every other week. And A lot of them got their jobs not right out of school, but soon after. And they tell me about the struggle of getting home from work and not wanting to draw and just feeling so exhausted from the full-time job that there's no will to want to work or draw outside of that. So yeah, I definitely see it with people. It's something that I think would scare me if I did have a full-time job, is not having the amount of effort to work in my spare time. But I've always been one to work outside of whatever I was in. So even while I was in school, I was always working on swordplay outside of it. Or while I was even with my job at Papados shucking oysters, I would usually come home and then just draw. And that was very standard for me to do. So I think it comes down to how much do you love the idea of working independently and chasing that dream. Or really, I think I'm just passionate about drawing. For me, it almost just relaxes me. So I don't see it as like work, except Drawlloween has challenged that theory. But I don't see it as work so much as it is just very relaxing. All right, we have about 10 minutes left. Let me see. Things like the hand and the candle. The hand, I definitely want to get a reference shot of my own hand because I think it would just turn out better. Even like here, I want there to be some kind of a cane, like maybe like an eyeball in her cane. So both of those, I'd want to take reference photos of my hand just so I can get a better result. If there's ever a chance you can take a reference photo, take a reference photo. It almost always will look better than if you just wing it. If you're going for something that has more of a realistic look. So even though obviously she isn't like full realism, I'm rendering her in a way that implies a lot of realistic elements. And with the hand, I want it to have the bumps and the, there we go. And I want the knuckles to be in a good position. And even though I've drawn hands so many times before, it always helps to have a better reference. All right, I'm just going to give some little details here. It might work. I'm trying to think of what else I can do during the stream part. Because I think I'm going to leave a lot of this area open. I didn't want it to be too rendered. I think Drawlloween's forcing me to learn how to pull back and focus on what matters in a piece. So I think with this one, I think what matters was the head and the hat area. So I'm going to, maybe right now, I'll just give a bit more attention to that. And then I'll finish up the hands later. Probably after the concert. I'll probably come back from the concert and work on hands. Like that's my life right now. Okay, let me see. Oh, I missed a lot of questions. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, Tijal says Adelaide. I like that name. Morgan. Hurricane Bro says, is it wrong that I love her eyes and think they're actually really pretty? Well, she says, thank you. And she's single and available. CMH39 says, oh no, I got that question. Yushin7 says, I feel the same way about Drawlloween. I'm feeling the burn. X face. I'm not really liking most of my drawings for it, so it's good that I'm not measuring quality and effort but output, because my primary goal with this challenge is just to finish. You know what? I think that is eventually what my goal is going to be. As much as I'm stressing out and I'm feeling the burn and I'm frustrated and I'm getting flustered, I think the challenge itself lies in the fact that I need to prove to not only other people but to myself that I could be a daily artist and that I can be given a challenge every day to draw and something that may not be in my comfort zone and still produce something out of it. It's definitely been, taxing, but it's a good feeling. Or at least I believe it will be a good feeling once I finish, because then I'll have 31 new drawings that I can add to my new sketchbook. I can have 31 drawings that I could then sell potentially, and hopefully I feel proud of most of them. You know what? as of right now, I do feel proud of most of my Drawlloween drawings. I feel like I am being too dramatic with the way I talk about it, but I've had a good time with Drawlloween, except for those. There's been 3 days so far out of the 12 where I haven't been feeling it, and it's been a struggle. But honestly, if it hasn't been a struggle at all, I feel like then it's not really a challenge. You really are only growing and developing as an artist when you feel challenged. So I have to keep reminding myself that. And I hope that you guys, I'm kind of reminding you now, if you're not feeling challenged, then you're not being challenged. That's my quote of the day. I really do feel like I should have a quote book that I can just write these things in, because then I can always, if I'm feeling uninspired, I could just open it and like randomly point to one and be like, Tim, here's what you told other people. You should be telling yourself this right now. Oh, you know what? I might make her hat have an every other contrast. It's like this will be darker, this will be lighter, this will be darker. Yeah, I kind of like that. I kind of like how the switch is coming out. I actually, when I started, I didn't even think I was going to be doing hands. I thought I was going to do more of like a bust profile of her. So this has grown already into something more than what I was originally planning, but I kind of like the direction it took. But I mean, I usually work a little slower on these live streams, but now you can imagine if so far I've only made 2 hours progress on my Drawlloween ones. I usually have to set aside like 3 or 4 hours every single day, and I have been up super late a few nights at like 2 or 3 a.m. just trying to finish a Drawlloween drawing, and I think that's where I get stressed out. So I probably will work on this for another hour or two at some point today. And I'm definitely kind of limiting myself to 4 hours. And I know that probably seems like a lot of time, especially if you have a full-time job. Trust me, I know what it feels like when I can only start it after 6 p.m. And yeah, it kind of sucks because then you have to like eat right away. And then usually what I do is I just start. As soon as I'm done eating, I'll start on my image. Oh, you know what? I'm going to have a line going up the side of her hat, kind of like a jean seam, or like a pant seam. Yeah, because then that will allow me then to kind of give a darker shade underneath. And this could add some more visual interest to it as well. Oh, we have a lot of questions here. CG Cookie Concept says, add the quotes to the sketchbook. I could do that. I do have a lot of, my sketchbook will be a lot bigger than my first one. If you guys have my first sketchbook, it's 44 pages. My new one's looking to be about 110 as of right now. And that one will be kickstarted in January. So if that is something that interests you, I would definitely check it out. Hurricane Bro 30 says, is there any chance that there could be live streams over the weekend? The only reason I could watch this live stream was because I had a half day, but usually school ends at 3 for me. It would be really cool if maybe there could be mini doodle live streams for those of us still in school. Yeah, actually this is something that I've been trying to do more with. I want to do like a night stream. I want to do one that isn't on the 2 p.m. time slot for Central Time. I think what will happen is I'll do more casual streams where like even doing the pumpkin, I would do it, but I wouldn't be so much talking as much as I am now. I can focus on actually working. But if that is something that interests you, guys, let me know, because then I know my boss will be okay with me streaming and producing content for CG Cookie and just anything where I'm teaching or there's some sort of learning that could be happening. My boss is all for, so he'd definitely be down for me streaming live more if it didn't hurt my work performance. So we'd have to test it out. I think I'll probably let you guys know when I would do my first casual stream, or who knows, maybe I'll keep it more casual. I won't make like a big deal out of it, and one day you just might see me streaming on Twitch. You know what? I'm going to give this hat more attention before we end the stream here. So I'm going to zoom in so I can show you guys the final part of what I'm working on here. Or I shouldn't say final, but final for the stream. Because I like to keep these streams to 2 hours if you're new to these. I try not to go over, but I almost always do. So I'm going to do what I call you know what? I don't think I made up this term. I think it's called a double seam, but I bet there's a better term for it. But essentially, I give a lighter line against a darker line of fabric, and it creates this illusion of a seam that also has this little indent seam next to it. And usually I'll give it some more shading. And it's this kind of level of detail that adds so much more to your drawings when you finish. But you can see how this still stands out like a sore thumb. So now to implement that more into the hat, I lay a shadow or like a wrinkle over both of them. And then it becomes more ingrained with the actual material. And then this bottom part looks super awful. It's like chunky and just all over the place. So I'm just going to erase it. And give it more dynamic of a shape to it. Now, when I'm working with this smaller pencil though, I can get really small with my detail. And I think that's why it's good that I haven't been using this as much, because I could honestly sit in here and render these small detail areas for a long, 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 long time. Why, thank you, Rosalind Gart, for following. Something like that. Okay, so overall, here's what we got going on. Feeling pretty good about this one so far. I feel like I actually enjoyed the process of creation on this one. I'm hoping that for those of you that are doing Drawlloween, you stick with it. I think just know I'm having some difficulties with it, and I'm pushing through. If you need words of encouragement, reach out to your art friends. Just let them know you're not feeling too encouraged. Ask them for a critique on what you're working on, or ask them for like some kind of advice of what would you do for today's theme, and maybe that'll inspire you or trigger something where you'd be like, oh, I have the perfect idea now. Thank you. So yeah. So this is I've got a Hunchback. I'll probably post it really late tonight, as I got to go to my D'Antford concert in a few hours. But I feel pretty good about where this one was going. So I hope you guys were able to learn something. Once again, I was using a 6B pencil throughout most of this process, and that's why it appears so dark. And I know right now we have a weird sheen from my light. There we go. So there we are. And I'll think of which name I liked best and post it later. I really do like Granny Janny though, so I might stick with that one. Okay, so thank you guys for coming to this live stream. We do these every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Time, and I'll start doing more casual streams as it'll probably start in November just because I'm so stressed with Drawlloween. I don't want added stress of starting casual streams right now. But next week, if you're interested, I am bringing Sean Price to do a guest artist stream, and he will be working on The Witch, since that is actually the Drawlloween topic of the day. And is there anything else new? If you are interested in entering our contest, look below. There are some work in progresses that have been posted, and it's just starting to get going. We have, I think, only one submission right now, which is very unusual. Usually we have a lot more. So I think it's just a lot of artists are doing Drawlloween, and they have to kind of manage their time. But I'm really excited to see the output for what you guys come up with for that one. And let me see. I think that's it. Okay, I think that's all I got on my end. I'm going to go to Subway. I'm going to feast over a veggie sandwich. So I'll talk to you guys next week. And thank you guys again for your words of encouragement. It really did mean a lot during the days that I was struggling. So if you're looking for that Zombie Boy PSD, it comes out tomorrow. And then the Pumpkin Step-by-Step Guide comes out on Friday. So look out for that if you're interested. Okay, bye guys. Bye.